Caitlin Clark on the short substitution patterns. Clark did not look like her usual self on Wednesday, playing in 2 to 3 minute spurts as a condition of her minutes restriction. Something she said when asked about that, quote,
"That right there is Caitlin Clark, talking about playing in 2 and 3 minute bursts and saying point blank that was not her decision. Somebody else made it, so who's running Caitlin Clark's career?"
Discusses managing Caitlin Clark's minutes as she returns from a back injury. "Just been a long time since she's played," Stephanie White says. "We want to get her on the floor. You don't want someone who's got a back injury to sit for long periods of time, but at the same time, we also don't want to stretch her for long periods of time on the floor and have any set."
Head coach Stephanie White went public with the explanation. Back injury, long layoff, don't want setbacks. It sounds reasonable on the surface, and if that's all this was, a medical situation being managed carefully, there'd be nothing to talk about. But here's what that explanation glosses over. Caitlin Clark herself told reporters before the season that she thinks minutes restrictions are, quote, silly. She said she told the team she didn't want to come back unless she was 100%. So you have a player who said she feels great, whose body responded well to workouts, who went on record saying she doesn't believe in this approach, and she's playing in 3-minute spurts anyway. That's the gap we need to talk about. The bigger question this video is building toward isn't whether load management is right or wrong in principle. It's whether the person holding the strings in Indiana actually has Caitlin Clark's best interests at heart. And by the time we get to Stephanie White's coaching resume and the front office's track record, the answer to that question is going to look very different than the official party line.
In the first 10 minutes, Cece plays 3 minutes and 15 seconds. In the second quarter, Cece plays 3 minutes and 51 seconds. Then she gets another stint of 3 minutes and 48 seconds. Then in the third quarter, she plays 2 minutes and 18 seconds. Then in the fourth quarter, she plays 3 minutes and 10 seconds. Thank you, Millie. I'm Millie Rock on any block. Thank you, Millie.
3 minutes and 15 seconds. 3:51, 3:48, 2:18, 3:10. That's the breakdown, quarter by quarter. Add it up and you're looking at a total game where Caitlin Clark, one of the most electric offensive players in the WNBA, could not string together more than 4 minutes of floor time at a stretch. And the commentary here isn't just frustration for its own sake. There's an actual basketball argument underneath it. You cannot get into a rhythm in 3-minute stints. You can't read a defense. You can't develop timing with your teammates. You can't do any of the things that make Caitlin Clark dangerous as a player. The three-point attempts that don't fall, the reads that feel slightly off, the passes that don't connect, those aren't signs that she needs more rest. They're signs that she's been put in an impossible situation to perform. And when she doesn't perform at her usual level on a minutes restriction, guess who gets the criticism? Not the coaching staff. Her.
Quote, "It's just really hard when you're playing 3 minutes, sub out, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, then you're on the bench," Clark said. "It's really hard to get into a flow. For the most part, I got good looks. Some of them went, some of them didn't. I probably didn't get to have a feel for the game as I usually do. Like, it's just really, really hard for me to play in that scenario. But overall, my body feels great. So that's the positive I can take from today. My body feels great. That was not my decision. That was somebody else's decision."
She said it directly. It's really hard to get into a flow. She said she probably didn't get a feel for the game the way she usually does. And then she pivoted to the positive. My body feels great. That line, my body feels great, is doing a lot of work in that quote. Because if her body feels great, the question becomes, who exactly is being protected here? And from what? That's not a rhetorical question. The framing from the Indiana Fever side has been consistent. We're managing her carefully. We don't want setbacks. But Caitlin Clark's own words, both in this interview and earlier in the season, point in a different direction. She said she's a competitor. She said she thinks she can play more. She said, and this is a direct quote, "Why would I be out there to play 20 minutes? I'm out there to win." The gap between what the player is saying privately, what she said publicly on the record, and what the organization is actually doing, that gap is the story.
This is what she said earlier in the season, I believe. "I'm not a huge fan of minutes restrictions. I think they're silly," Clark said pregame Saturday. "I told them I don't want to come back unless I'm 100% full go. Why would I be out there to play 20 minutes? I'm out there to win and give everything I have to the season." You just played 16.
Now this is the argument that cuts right to the heart of Clark's situation. What exactly does she have to lose by pushing back? She is, by any measurable standard, the reason the Indiana Fever matter commercially right now. Attendance figures, TV ratings, merchandise, national coverage, all of it tied directly to her presence. And yet the people making decisions about how many minutes she plays, which reporter gets which narrative, how her return from injury is framed, none of those people have earned the kind of trust that warrants automatic deference. This is where the Tom Brady comparison is actually worth unpacking for a second, because Brady's situation wasn't really about a trainer. It was about a player with enough leverage and enough self-awareness to understand that his value gave him the right to make demands, and that the team needed him more than he needed to go along with anything they said. Clark is in a similar position right now, and she may not fully be acting like it.
Dang, Becky Hammond! What did Becky Hammond say? Becky Hammond said, Asia Wilson wants to play, and I told her no. And you know what Asia said? You know what, Becky? You're a championship coach. You've led me to the promised land. You did the whole NBA shit. You're friends with Greg Popovich. You were tutored under Greg Popovich. I'll step back and I'll listen to you. Stephanie White ain't that.
The Becky Hammond comparison is genuinely important context here, and it deserves a real look. When Aja Wilson wanted to play and Hammond told her no, Wilson deferred because Hammond had earned that trust. 2 WNBA championships, an NBA coaching background under Greg Popovich, a track record that gives weight to her judgment. When Becky Hammond says sit down, she's drawing on years of earned credibility. So the question isn't whether a player should ever listen to a coach about load management. Of course they should, when the coach has demonstrated they know what they're doing. The question is whether Stephanie White has established that same credibility with Caitlin Clark. And when you actually look at White's resume before Indiana, the answer gets complicated. She was let go at Vanderbilt. By some accounts, the roster dynamic deteriorated under her watch. She then joined an Indiana Fever organization that had already made the finals and could not get them back. That's the track record Caitlin Clark is being asked to place her full trust in.
Privately, you gotta step up. Cause your agent, she's a pushover. You're the only one that has your own back. The Indiana Fever, Stephanie White, they don't got your back. The fans, we got your back. So if you're not happy about load managing, I need you to do something. Say something, please, Caitlin, please, I'm begging you.
Privately, you've got to step up. That's the ask. Not a press conference, not a public statement, not a dramatic locker room speech. Just a real conversation, behind closed doors, where Caitlin Clark makes clear she's not okay with how things are going. And there's a version of the counter-argument that says she's already doing that she's a 22-year-old rookie navigating a professional environment for the first time, and maybe she's pushing back more than we know. That version deserves some air. We're not inside the Indiana Fever facility. We don't know what those conversations sound like. But here's the problem with giving her too much benefit of the doubt. Her own public comments are soft. When reporters ask her about the minutes restriction, she answers carefully. She says it wasn't her decision, and then immediately softens it. My body feels great, it'll be okay. It's a long season. That's not the language of someone who's in active conflict with the people making these calls. That's the language of someone who's been trained to manage the message.
I need you and Stephanie White to have screaming matches behind the scenes. If they're gonna listen to me, CC. If the Indiana Fever are gonna let Lynn Dunn and Stephanie White and Amber Cox and Kelly Krauskopf leak information to the media about how uncoachable you are, fuck it then. Fuck it then. Hey, I'm playing today. If I'm not playing tomorrow, I'm playing today. And I'm not playing 16 bullshit minutes either. Playing for 2, out for 5, playing for 1, out for 7. I'm not doing that.
Here's where this gets darker. The suggestion that members of the Indiana Fever organization, reportedly including a front office figure referred to in the broadcast as Lynn Dunn, have allegedly been feeding information to media outlets about Clark is one of the more serious threads in this conversation. It has not been confirmed and should be treated as an allegation, not fact. But the broader pattern it points to of a young star player being managed through the press, where narratives about her attitude, her demands, her fit with the culture get floated anonymously. That is a real dynamic in professional sports, and it's worth understanding. Because if true, it means Clark is being simultaneously restricted on the court and shaped in the press. That's a two-front situation, and her current strategy of staying quiet and being agreeable doesn't protect her on either front. The hit pieces come out regardless. The minutes restrictions stay in place regardless. Being nice hasn't moved anything.
Chloe Peterson comes out. A year ago, Caitlin Clark said minutes restrictions were silly. But after a frustrating year of injury, she knows that what needs to be it's what she needs to do. This is the quote that she's referencing, actually. I'm seeing some confusion on me saying she knows a minutes restriction is what she needs to do. I was not referring to the 3-minute burst, which she didn't like, but the minute.
This is where the media accountability piece enters the frame. The article in question by reporter Chloe Peterson was read carefully during this segment, and the conclusion reached is that Peterson's summary of Clark's feelings about the minutes restriction does not match what Clark actually said. Clark said she feels great, that she can play more, that she's a competitor. Peterson reportedly framed it as Clark understanding and accepting that the restriction is what she needs right now. Those are two very different things. And in a media environment where Indiana Fever PR has an active interest in managing the story around Clark's relationship with the organization, that kind of soft reframing in a credentialed outlet is not a small problem. It means Clark's actual position, which appears to be disagreement, is being laundered into compliance through how reporters characterize it. Readers who don't dig into the direct quotes don't see the gap. They just see Clark's on board, and that serves the organization's interests, not hers.
This is what Caitlin. Control the controllables, Caitlin. Control the controllables. Caitlin Clark needs to stop worrying about speaking up in regards to people who want to use her name for clicks or push imaginary agendas, etc. She needs to start worrying about that coach who wants her to be Sue Bird 2.0 and use her name as a feather in the cap to bolster her broad.
This is the frame that puts everything else in order. It's not about any one bad actor. It's about a structural misalignment of interests. The coach Stephanie White has a broadcast career waiting for her after coaching. A stint on Indiana's bench alongside the most talked about player in women's basketball, regardless of outcome, is a career asset. The GM, Amber Cox, has never built a roster before. Her learning curve runs on Caitlin Clark's time. The president, reportedly Kelly Krauskopf, wants to leverage Clark's name to rebrand the franchise as something bigger. But the actual product on the floor, the front office investment, the roster around her, hasn't matched that ambition. Every one of those people has a version of using Caitlin Clark that benefits them independently of whether she wins a championship, stays healthy long-term, or reaches her own ceiling as a player. That's the alignment problem. And Clark, who is 22, on her first professional contract, still learning how this world works, is trying to navigate it by being a good teammate and a cooperative employee. That instinct will cost her if she doesn't also start protecting her own position with the same energy.
So do something about that environment in Indiana, or get the fuck out of there. Do something about that agent you surround yourself with, and get a new one. Fix those conversations with Stephanie White and stop letting her think you're a punk.
Do something about that environment, or get out of it. That's the ultimatum being laid out, and the word environment is doing real work there, because it's not just about minutes or one bad game. It's about who Clark has around her making decisions. Her agent, by this account, is not fighting hard enough. Her coaching staff is not on her side in any meaningful way. Her front office is using her name without investing in her success. The training staff's approach, the short burst substitution pattern, has drawn criticism from people who watch the game closely, and Clark, for her part, is surrounded by people whose incentive structures don't align with her long-term development or well-being. That's a solvable problem if she identifies it. It becomes a career-defining mistake if she doesn't, and she's still operating this way in year 4.
I need Caitlin to see it. I need her to see that Stephanie White is a terrible coach, that this organization doesn't have her back, that the training staff is useless. Do what Tom Brady did. Go get your own trainer. And actually empower him to say, fuck you, to the Indiana Fever. Tom Brady said, if my trainer's not coming with me on the plane, I'm not playing for you guys. I'll go to Tampa. If my trainer's not coming every game to stretch me out before the game, I'm not playing for you guys. I'm going somewhere else. This has got to be you, Caitlin. I'm sorry.
The reference to Tom Brady here is more than a sports analogy, it's a blueprint. Brady, late in his career in New England, insisted that his personal trainer Alex Guerrero travel with the team and have access to him before games. The Patriots refused. Brady went to Tampa Bay, where the conditions were met. The outcome, a Super Bowl in his first season there. The point isn't that Clark should leave Indiana tomorrow, she's under contract, and the situation is more complex than that. The point is the mindset. Brady understood that his longevity, his performance, and his career outcomes depended on controlling the inputs, the training, the recovery, the people who had access to his body and his preparation. He didn't outsource that to people whose incentive was keeping him manageable. He made demands and backed them up. Clark is at an inflection point right now where the habits she establishes in year 2 about how much she tolerates and how hard she pushes back will set the pattern for the rest of her career. What she accepts now, she normalizes.
You know what? She doesn't want to ruffle any feathers in the league. Fuck that. They don't like you anyway, whether you're nice to them, whether you're mean. Who cares at this point? We're about to go into year 4. She's just buying her time until her contract's up. Well, then you already know you're leaving anyway. So what are we losing? They're already fucking with your minutes and fucking how they use you and your usage rate and what? They already got Raven Johnson bringing up the ball for you. So what do you got to lose at this point? That's the thing. What do you got to lose at this point? Especially if it's done privately.
Year 4 is coming up fast, and the subtext of everything said in this segment is that Clark's contract situation already has a clock on it. If she's privately counting down to free agency, or at least to a point where she has more leverage, that changes the calculation around how hard to push right now. The counter-argument is, if you're leaving anyway, you have nothing to lose by being louder now. The organization can't punish you with a trade that you'd welcome. They can't bench you because your value on the floor is the only thing keeping the franchise relevant. They can put out negative stories, and according to this commentary, they allegedly already are. So what's the deterrent? What is Clark protecting by staying quiet and being a good soldier? The argument here is not much, and the cost of that strategy in terms of games missed, rhythm lost, development stunted is already showing up on the court. 3-minute bursts don't develop players, they manage them, and there's a difference between being managed and being developed.
Stop telling me Stephanie White and Indiana Fever are riding for you and have your back. They don't ride for shit. They don't got anybody's back. We're in the pros now. People are looking out for their own career. Not looking out for your career. This ain't college. This isn't Lisa Bluter looking out for your career, hoping that you get better and you improve and you are able to transition to that next level. This isn't that.
This quote that she said earlier in the season, she's not a huge fan of minutes restrictions and thinks they're silly, is actually the most important piece of evidence in this whole conversation. Because it's not a slip, it's not heat-of-the-moment frustration after a bad game, it was a pre-game interview measured and on the record, before any of this became a flashpoint. She said she told them she didn't want to come back unless she was 100%. She said she's out there to win and give everything she has. And then 2 weeks later, she played 16 minutes in 3-minute chunks and said it wasn't her decision. That sequence stated position, stated preference, and then the outcome being the exact opposite of both, tells you something real about the power dynamic inside that organization right now. Clark is expressing her preferences. The organization is acknowledging them and doing what it wants anyway. And so far, Clark's response has been to soften it in press and find the silver lining. That works once. It doesn't work if it becomes the pattern.
Ridiculous now. If you don't like how they're using it, do something about it. You know what I mean? Speak up. That's all this is. Still love you, CC. Still love you. But sometimes you gotta, talk to people you love like this. You know what I mean? Sometimes you gotta talk to people like you love like this, right? So if I didn't love you, I don't care. I wouldn't say anything. You know what I mean?
Still love CC. That's how this ends. Not as an attack, but as a genuine investment in watching her succeed. And that's actually the most honest framing of what all of this commentary is. It's not comfortable to watch someone you believe in absorb situations that are working against them without pushing back. But comfort is not the same as support. The people telling Caitlin Clark that everything is fine, that the minutes restriction is being managed well, that the front office has her best interests at heart, those people are not helping her. The harder conversation, the one that says you are being handled, and you need to see it for what it is, that's the one that actually comes from a place of caring about where she ends up. So the question you have to sit with is this. Do you think Caitlin Clark is getting the honest version of what's happening around her from the people inside that building, or is she getting the version that keeps her cooperative and manageable while other people's careers get built on her name? Leave your answer in the comments, and if this is the kind of conversation you want more of, like the video and subscribe, because the comfortable takes aren't the ones that age well.